Hey guys, this is my friend Shokor. He's a property manager for property investors, real estate broker, just became a real estate broker. Congrats. And owns multiple properties, residential, commercial, and then he has another business called Furnished Casas. He furnishes rentals. It was short term,
Right.
but he turned them midterm. I'd like to talk to him, let you guys ask a few questions, and just go back and forth. I love having you. Thank you for coming on to the podcast. And I just want to ask some questions for future investors, maybe people that want to work with you, people that have properties that are empty.
Right.
And you can give them little tips on how you keep them occupied, because you're now doing this for not only yourself, you have other investors that have multiple properties, and you're furnishing them and getting more rent money than just a long-term rental. So I think it's a very unique niche, and I wanted to bring you on the podcast and just talk about it. And also I love doing your roofs. So I'm always excited for you to get more properties under your belt. So hopefully somebody listening will see this and be like, hey, I need to give Shok a chance at furnishing one of my rentals. And then they'll also be like, oh, it needs a roof because some storm rolled through.
Yes.
And you can call me. But either way, just a quick informal chat. He's been in this business how long?
8.5 years now.
8.5 years.
Yeah.
So you came from the tech space down in San Antonio, rack space.
Yeah. I was an account executive there for about 8 years. And then I realized that I'd gained so much knowledge from the business world and leaders that I worked for that I thought maybe it's time for me to spread my wings and figure out how I can apply all of that knowledge that was imparted upon me. And so it's been a great experience ever since. And I'm really honored to be here, so thanks for having me.
No problem. So you were doing short-term rentals in Arlington, and all of a sudden the city was like banning short-term rentals. And is that what made you pivot into the midterm rentals?
Yeah. The funny story, even before I got into short-term rentals, was that I started as once I moved from San Antonio back to DFW, I wanted to just flip houses. And a friend of mine introduced me to this one house that was just a kind of like a 1950s all wood house on pier and beam, but it was a really nice location. It was about a mile away from the AT&T Stadium. My purpose was to get this house, get it ready, and then sell it. But as I kept on working on it, I hand sanded all the floors myself, and put lots of love and detail into it. And once I was done, I got a little attached. I didn't really have the heart to try to sell it. So at that point, my thought was, how do I make the best out of this house? And I thought, maybe it's close to AT&T Stadium, so maybe there's a slim chance that someone will appreciate this and will want to try it out. So I had some furniture lying around, a washer and dryer and beds and other things, and the house actually had some stuff in there already that the old people, old owners left behind. So I just made the best of it and just kind of started with that. And as I started the first phase, I got good feedback from people. I realized that all of my work from being in customer service and sales at Rackspace, and then when I was a real young 20 something year old, I was a car salesman. So the knowledge of how to approach people without being afraid of them, without being afraid of hearing no or hearing criticism, was something that was a part of me. I knew how to overcome those objections. And so once we got into this one short-term rental, and I met the customers, I interacted with them, I realized, I was like, I can probably do this better than most people can, just because it's not just a house that I'm selling. They say that when you're in sales, you're not just selling the product. In a way, you are the product. And so that made me have a little bit more confidence, because I didn't feel like I was stepping into anything that was just completely brand new to me. It just felt like it was a different product, but the process is still the same. You understand your customers, you understand their needs, their pain points, and you find the best solution for them. And so with that in mind, the furnished rental, the short-term rental, became somewhat intuitive for me after the first few months. I kept on getting really good reviews, and that inspired me to continue to see how far I can go down that path.
So you started off with short-term rentals. You skipped renting for long-term altogether.
Yes, to some capacity. When I'm originally from DFW, I lived here back in 2007. That was right when the real estate bubble had burst, right? 2007, 2008. I just bought my first house, and I was living in it. Then I got this job in San Antonio, and here I was. I had this house in Crowley, Texas, and I was upside down on the house. Back then you could buy a house for $135,000. It even had a pool. At that point, the house was worth about $108,000. So my option was either long-term rent it or sell it. I didn't want to sell it, and so I kept it, I long-term rented it, and the tenant, he stayed there for 5 years.
Awesome.
5 years. Amazing guy, just a single guy, worked at a chemical plant fairly close by, so it was really easy to deal with it. That's how I got involved in being a landlord. And so I actually did the long term first, but I was fairly distant from it. And so I became familiar with renting a little bit then. Then the short-term rentals, once that started, I had a little bit of comfort in understanding, okay, what do you do when tenants are asking you for things? And I also knew how much revenue there was in a long-term rental. And that allowed me to have a good base comparison for what we were doing on the short-term side.
That brings me to my next question. For people that do long-term rentals and want to get into short-term or midterm, what kind of returns, what kind of differences in returns are there? Is there a lot more? Seems like there's a lot bigger returns on the short term, but what about the midterm and the long term? Like what kind of differences are there on returns?
Right. I love that question. Ultimately, because I've had a lot of time to think about all three options. We always want to choose the path of least resistance, and when you're doing long-term rentals, yeah, you're a little bit more hands-off, but the drawback is that you're not in the property very frequently, so you don't know how well it's being maintained.
Oh wow.
And the other challenge is that if big ticket items break down on you, like an AC system or a major plumbing issue or a roof, it can eat months, if not a year or two, of profits. Because assuming that you're paying a mortgage on all of these properties, short-term, mid-term, and long-term, what I've experienced is that in a long-term, you're looking at maybe a $300 to $500 buffer. And so that can get eaten up fairly quickly if you're spending $10,000 on a new AC system.
Definitely.
So that's what you've got there. Midterm, you're looking at, you're more involved in how the house is being maintained because you're paying for the lawn care, you're keeping utilities under check. You get to see how much electricity is being used, how much water is being used. So if there's a leak, you know about it much sooner. As opposed to the long term, where if the leak is happening, the tenant has to notice it on their water bill, and then they have to figure out, okay, is it just overconsumption on my part, or is there something major going on? By the time they discover what the true issue is, it can be months. And that small issue that could have been remedied fairly quickly with just like resoldering something, now has gotten much bigger. So with going back to it, as far as profitability, I would say $300 to $500 is what you can expect in a long-term rental profit. For midterm, I would say about $2,000 a month.
Oh, wow.
And then in short term, I would say probably about $3,000 a month.
Yeah, because there's nights that you don't get to rent it sometimes if you're not good at filling all the nights, or
Yes.
it's not a party weekend by the no football game at the AT&T Stadium, or something's happening. So I could see that happening. It just seems like there's so much when you look at the $160 per night times 30, it's like, wow, that little house is a big revenue generator.
Right.
But I never thought about the hands-on and hands-off. On long term, you're kind of hands-off for a long time.
Yeah.
And that's scary because the maintenance issues, I see it in apartments. We do a lot of apartment work, and some apartment tenants don't say anything about the roof leaking until the ceiling collapsed.
Yeah.
That little brown stain on the ceiling, they're like, it started leaking, well, the ceiling collapsed, and then they call. and it's like, I walk into these things and I'm like, man, this didn't just start happening.
Yeah.
This wasn't just from this weekend storm.
Or the condensation drip right outside the window. They're like, oh, I wonder why that's dripping outside. They're not thinking, oh, I should go check in the attic to see if the main condensation line's open, because that typically means if it's dripping outside, it's not open on the inside.
Yeah, it's not going to the sink.
Yeah.
And then you have the drip pan under the AC unit maybe going to overflow and cause big damage. Talking about big damage, you work with families that have been displaced from a disaster, fire, flood, major roof damage.
Right.
What do most investors not understand about this niche?
Well, it depends on what the investor specializes in, first of all. If they invest in big houses, they may think that, oh, there's not as much demand for it. The investment, if their portfolio encompasses like 1 bedroom, 1 bath apartments all the way to 5 bedroom houses, I think they're going to have a pretty good understanding. There's not going to be much of a surprise to them. But there are people who invest in just larger homes, and in those larger homes, what they're not really understanding is that there's going to be a big gap in between each stay. So knowing that typically people are staying in a place for example, for floods, 75% of home damage claims are due to floods, due to water. Toilet busts open, washer and dryer hose breaks, even the ice maker line.
Oh, wow.
The water line. All of these things have caused severe floods, and a lot of times the flooring will start to warp. Yeah, and so those things don't happen all the time, but when they do happen, the repairs can take anywhere from a month to like 6 months or even a year. So if they're looking for something that's incredibly predictable and just looking to have 1 or 2 properties for that purpose, they may experience a little bit of disappointment, because if you don't have enough of a wide portfolio to where you can cover larger homes, mid-sized homes, smaller places, 1-2 bedroom apartments, stuff like that, there's going to be some vacancies. And if they might panic if there's a vacancy that's for a month or 2 months or even 3 months. We've had that at times. but you offset that by having enough properties to where if one place is empty, it's losing a little bit of money, yeah, but then you're spreading that loss over 5, 6, 10, 15, 20 properties, and it becomes just an insignificant. Like having one property or two properties being at 0% vacancy is really painful, because you've got all the mortgages and stuff like that. But if you've got multiple properties, even if you're at 50% occupancy, you can still get by. Even at 20% occupancy, you can get by. So investors have to understand that you need a good size of properties with good amenities to be able to maintain yourself over the ebbs and flows of demand.
So that brings me to my next question. What makes a property ideal for midterm rental, and what are some tips to get them rented fast that you've learned over where they don't go empty for long stretches of time?
Well, as far as what I look for in a property, it's based on the needs of the public. Our primary customers are dishomed people, and so those folks are looking for another home that's going to be as close to their home as possible, both physically and I guess location-wise, geographically. So one thing that really helps is to have properties in all areas. New homes break down just like old homes. So I would say just make sure that you're looking at a geographically diverse portfolio. And the other thing is to make sure that that your property is pet friendly. Most people in America have a cat or a dog or some variation of other, like birds, cockatiels, and aquarium tanks and so on. So make sure that your properties is pet friendly, which means try to stray away from carpeted properties. If you have carpet, remove the carpet. Make the floor solid.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say tile is my number one choice. And then make sure that the grouts have a stain resistant coating on them, so that if a dog accidentally relieves himself on the tile and the tenants forget to clean it within 5 minutes, it doesn't soak into the tile and it doesn't create like a permanent scent.
Oh wow.
So making sure that your properties are pet friendly inside with flooring, but also outside with like a good fence. A good fence is worth its weight in gold.
Holy cow! I didn't realize you actually let people have pets in your properties, and
yeah.
I would think most rentals, like most apartments, you can't have pets.
Yeah, no.
Or it's an extra fee.
We do charge for the pet because they're just even though they don't mean to be, they're a little destructive.
And there's more cleanup at the end.
Absolutely, a lot more cleanup. You have to use heavy duty chemicals to make sure you remove all their scent from all the places where they were. You have to really do a thorough job of cleaning the properties. You have to do extra cleaning on the couches in case they let dogs and cats and stuff like that sit on the couches. Like, I have a pug, and I love her, but she has like a very strong, just natural smell. And so if she's laying on a couch, the couch kind of smells like her. And
I know that smell. My mom used to say, "You're so sweaty, you smell like a dog."
Exactly. So yeah, making sure that you've got a good fence. I recommend a 6-foot fence and make it wood. People think that a chain link fence is okay. Well, you may be able to get by, but if you can do a good fence, it'll be better, because your neighbor, chances are, has a dog, and if your dog and their dog don't really agree, they could try to try to disagree
or
physically.
just bark all night.
Yeah. So it also gives people a better sense of kind of comfort and relaxation, knowing that someplace is more private to them. Aside from that, I would say water features. If you can afford to have a hot tub or a pool, absolutely. A hot tub is worth its weight in gold as well. If you have some extra money, I would say splurge in something called a swim spa, which is kind of if a hot tub in a pool had a child, it would be a swim spa. They're 5 feet tall, they're 15 feet long, 8 feet wide. They create currents so you can swim against it.
You can swim in place like a treadmill.
Yes, and it heats up to 104 degrees, just like a hot tub does. So it's like the perfect mix of both of those, without all the extra headaches. Some people, because pools are seasonal, you can't use them all the time.
Funny thing is, I went to one of your rental properties to look at the roof, and I got sent the next door neighbor's house instead of your house. And I get on the roof and I'm like, this is really strange. I was like, the roof's old as ever, and I was like, and the backyard's got like grass about like 5 feet tall or 4 feet tall, and there's no pool. I was like, where's the pool? And then so I checked my phone and I'm like, there's no hot tub, there's no pool. I'm like, I think I'm on the wrong house.
This can't be this.
I walked down because I was on the wrong house. It was a rental property right next door too, and I talked to the guy before I got on the roof. He was like, well, I guess if the owner sent you, yeah, go check the roof. I go, I am completely sorry. This has happened to me like twice in my roofing life, 15 years. I got on the wrong house, but I was like, your roof's shot, you need to tell the owner. And then I was like, I'm supposed to be next door. So there was a pool next door.
Yeah.
But it was, I've noticed that about your properties. I think every one of them, maybe one of them doesn't have a pool, or every one of them has a hot tub at least.
Everyone has a hot tub. Most of them have pools and hot tubs. Just because, it's a bit of, sometimes people, for physical, health reasons, they can't get in a hot tub. It's just too much heat for them, so they want a pool. And other times, especially with older folks, they don't like the pool because the water's just not, even in the summertime, 85-degree temperatures, or 85-degree water temperature, it's just not really enough for them. Yeah. So they like the therapeutic bubbles and the jets of hot tubs. So I try to cater to both.
And so you've learned how to clean and maintain all these pools and hot tubs, and you have them on like a system, a routine where you just go to them every month, or how does that work?
Well, I used to do that all by myself, because the first house I ever owned had a pool. I had to learn pool chemistry, and then the first hot tub I bought, I had to learn how to manage that too. But now that we have so many, I actually have a pool technician. He's been with us for several years, and he knows all the properties, all the ins and outs of them. Awesome. So he just goes and takes care of them. Sometimes things get escalated to me when it comes to like hot tub repairs, because I'm fairly handy when it comes to understanding those things. The first hot tub I ever bought, some things didn't work on them, so I had to figure out how they worked. And so, after a lot of YouTubing, I became a YouTube expert on hot tubs.
Nice.
And so they escalate some things to me, and like, hey, this is it's not acting this, it's acting this way. What do you think? And I can generally point them in the right direction. But I also have my escalation point, like this guy named Dylan from McAndrews Hot Tubs in Arlington. He's actually my escalation point for anything that I don't understand. Yeah, he's the one who actually does it full time for a living. So I'm like, hey man, what should I do here?
So pools make a good midterm rental, having pet friendly houses, and then when you're picking out like furnishings and like furniture, is there like tips or tricks or stuff to stay away from? You said stay away from carpet.
Yeah.
What kind of couches, TVs, stuff like that? Is there something that you're like, I've learned my lesson with LG washing machines, or something like that you're just like, hey, we gotta stay away from all the features, or how's that work?
First thing I would recommend is be mindful of furniture that you buy and their weight limits. Not everyone is built the same. And I've had seemingly okay furniture collapse under couples who were just, who exceeded the weight capacity. Not all furniture is made the same. I say splurge as much as you can on the sturdiest furniture you can get, so that you don't embarrass your guests, so that they don't feel bad, and at the same time just save you a lot of headache. And the furniture that's well built is going to last 10 times longer, but is only maybe 50% more than what you were paying for on the cheap end.
Oh, okay.
That's the very first thing I would recommend. Invest in good furniture, heavy duty couches that don't have a 200 or 300 pound weight limit. You could have 3 people that are 250 pounds each sitting on the couch. You don't want it collapsing underneath them.
So I didn't know there was weight limits on. I mean, that's like, is there a spot where you can find that on the websites? They're like, do not exceed 700 pounds, or you just know, like, hey, this brand of furniture typically can hold a lot of weight.
So I don't know if there's a weight capacity. I'm sure there is. So I'm not too familiar with it. Some furniture will have a weight limit. It'll state it, like twin beds. They'll say weight limit is 200 pounds or 250 pounds. So you want to make sure that if there's an adult laying on there, that they're not more than 250 pounds. But then that puts the burden of responsibility on you. You can't ask people, how much do you weigh, before you let them stay in the property. Yeah. So you have to kind of err on the side of caution, buy things that have good reinforcement. So aside from that, if things have a weight limit that's posted, that's great. Otherwise, I say just buy solid furniture, stuff that's made of actual solid wood, and look underneath it to see how well they're reinforced. Good furniture is always going to have for example,
it's gonna be heavy to lift.
Yeah, it's heavy to lift, and king size beds, they have an extra support right in the middle of the bed, in between all of the legs. So make sure that it's got things like that. Look up some YouTube videos on what makes a strong piece of furniture versus a weaker one. So that's one thing I would recommend. The other thing, not every person is going to know enough about technology as you do. You who bought it, who researched it, who played around with it for hours and maybe days or weeks or years on end, it's intuitive to you. But it's not to someone who's coming in on the first day after having moved their tons of furniture and with kids and pets and managing these things.
So you want easy microwaves, easy dishwasher, easy washing and
TVs.
dryers, and the TV.
Yes, make sure that your TV remotes are fairly straightforward. Across all of our properties, I'm a big fan of Roku TVs. The remote is about that big. It's got maybe 10 buttons.
And they're not that expensive compared to like a Samsung or LG or something.
Yes.
Like if something happens, you can replace it pretty quick.
I have maybe 50 spare remote controls. They're all interchangeable.
Oh, wow.
I guess we have guests who accidentally pack them and they leave with them. And so you have to factor in that there are going to be times where people are going to make that mistake. They're going to forget, and you have to kind of accommodate for that.
We lost one. We had a dryer fire at my house. We were at a rental. We lost the remote at the rental house. Yeah. So I had to Amazon another one, but then we find it. So I was like, oh, good. Now we have an extra remote. My dad didn't have. He had the same remote, and his was eating batteries, like just decharging the batteries.
Oh, right.
It was weird. Like batteries would not last more than a day in it.
Huh.
Or maybe it was, I'm exaggerating,
yeah,
probably about a few days, but we're just like, man, this thing eats through the batteries. And my dad was like, his fix was just pull the battery out after you use it every time. And so I was like, Dad, hey, we got an extra remote. I don't know why I need 2 remotes for my TV. I was like, you can go, we can throw away that bad remote, but my dad's like, I'm gonna keep it just in case.
Just in case the new one breaks down.
Yes, so easy appliances, easy TVs, and then how much like is it a big turnaround time whenever somebody's leaving your house? Do you have maybe a month notice, but then you start marketing it, or how do you like get somebody else in it almost right after they leave, or is that just by luck? You have a dance?
So, it always helps to be connected to other people who are looking for places. So finding relocation companies, finding service companies, working with insurance companies, working with contractors, working with inspectors, with what are the not the inspectors, but the public adjusters.
Public adjusters.
Having a strong network of people who understand what you do, understand your reputation, understand your business model and principles, so that they can say, I like this person, and I know that if I send someone that I'm protective of to them, that they're going to be well cared for.
Awesome.
Once you build that reputation, like for example, me and you, Sean, I know that anyone that I send to you, you're going to take care of them hands down. And that's why I love sending people to you, because the people that I refer are people that I care about. And so I'm protective of them. And so I want to make sure that if I recommend them, it's someone that is going to care about them as much as I do. And when I send people to you, that goes without saying for me.
That's a big thing. When I send people, I'm more worried about referring people than using that person myself. I'm like, I'll be the guinea pig.
Yeah.
But when I refer somebody, I want to make sure they're rock solid on their business.
Exactly. And so, having a network, aside from that, if you're in an area that allows short-term rentals, I recommend just opening up the calendar and accepting some short-term rentals. But you're still advertising for the midterm. And so this way, you may lose some revenue because you've got vacancy there, but it's not going to be very much. And and a lot of times it's enough, or at least more than enough, to cover your costs until you get someone else in.
So the hands-on short term between midterm, like midterm's kind of the sweet spot. It's not hands off like long term, but it is more hands off than short term. Short term seems like you got to have a maid every week. You got to have different things, like you have to go open and unlock and get a new guest every week, or so I mean, is it a lot more hands on? Like, could you have 50 short term, or would that be like pulling your hair out?
If you build a good system, a good support system, and good repetitive models, instead of just trying to wing things, it's very doable. There are companies that manage thousands of short-term rentals.
Oh, awesome.
But they do that because they have a process for everything. There are no snowflakes. It's like they use the same remotes, they use the same products, so that if something breaks, they can instantly replace it. There's no guesswork. Aside from that, their support staff they have cleaning crews that know those properties really well, and they can send them and they can be done with cleaning the property in 2 hours, as opposed to 2 days that it may take for someone who's brand new and
or doing it themselves.
Yeah. So having a good support team means that you can take things that look like magic to the customer, but for you is just a system.
Do you see yourself, I know you've talked about, I think you have a property in Austin, mm-hmm. and I went on vacation to California, and I was like, man, this is awesome. I want to have a townhouse like this, and I'll have access to it when I want to go to Tahoe,
Right.
but then also rent it out when I'm away. Do you see yourself expanding outside of Texas to other states? Is there challenges like vacation houses, and all of a sudden you get to have a vacation house in Florida, one in maybe California, Colorado, wherever you like to go? Do you see yourself expanding in those types of ways?
Absolutely, hands down. That's honestly why what is romantic to me is going anywhere in the world and knowing that I'm home. That's the one thought that keeps on making me push forward. So it's funny you say that, you mentioned Florida, because Florida is where we're going to be expanding into.
Awesome.
Right now we're on the I-35 corridor, so from DFW we're moving to Waco, we're already in Austin, and then we're going to San Antonio.
Cool.
And then from there to Houston. But these are the big markets that I'm interested in. After that, one of my friends who actually manages several short-term rentals here, he's moving to Tampa, Florida. So he and I have kind of this unwritten agreement that I'll manage his properties here, and in exchange he has to manage the properties that I want there, because I've always wanted to have a nice place in Florida, so I can go there and just kind of enjoy it for a few months.
I don't blame you. I see myself someday getting properties where I like to go visit, and
Right.
and it's and we don't have as cool as beaches as Florida. They have really nice white beaches, so I'd love to have a place where the kids could go to Disney World if I can get it soon enough. But so what are some of the biggest mistakes that investors make when trying to furnish rentals? I mean, you've already talked about the weight limits and the complexity of appliances.
Right.
Any other like big mistakes that you see, or big mistakes in general, maybe not just the furnished rentals, but midterm and short terms?
So a big mistake is sometimes people won't study where they should be. So some cities have banned short-term rentals, and they've created really strict guidelines even around midterm rentals, where I was reading that some places require a rental to be for 6 months. And so studying the market, understanding what's on the roadmap for that area. Are they in support of what you're doing, or are they against it? That's one. I would also recommend that do like a little bit of market analysis. Is the area that you're in something that can support what you're looking to add there? So, for example, if you're going to an area and you're buying like a 5-bedroom or 6-bedroom house, thinking, oh yes, I'm going to midterm rental this, that's far more difficult than something that's a 3-bedroom or a 4-bedroom. So understanding what your sweet spot is in terms of in terms of properties. I definitely recommend having a 5-bedroom or 6-bedroom, but not having a whole lot of them, because you're not gonna get a lot of demand for that. You can charge more for it, but you're gonna have a lot of vacancies. You need the property size that's gonna be flexible. So my favorite is a 4-bedroom property, because a 4-bedroom is something that can be entertained by someone who's by 2 people, or as much as by 6 or even 8 people.
Oh wow.
Yeah, 4-bedroom allows that flexibility, because
you can have 2 people in each bedroom.
Yeah, exactly. 2 people in each bedroom, or one person in one bedroom, and then you've got an office, and then you have a spare guest bedroom. Or if it's like or 3 people and then one office. People like having a little bit more space than what they actually need. And so if you can find a good price point that makes it profitable for you, but still gives them a little bit more space, they will always err on the side of more things than they need than less. You want to understand, or you have to understand that your customers are looking to upgrade their experience, not downgrade. So at a time where they're struggling with insurance or home repairs or relocating and stuff like that, give them the luxury of being able to splurge in things. And that's why going back to the swim spa thing, I love swim spas. Places that we have that have these swim spas, they stay booked. But it does cost $40,000.
Whoa.
Yeah. But like that $40,000 will pay for itself
in like 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, I typically amortize over 3 years, and so after the 3 years, and the typical lifespan of a swim spa is about maybe 10-15 years. So 3 years knocks out the price of the product. The rest of it is just profitability. So not investing in things like that is another investor mistake that I caution people. I'm like, invest a little bit more, and you'll attract the higher paying customers. Aside from that, I would say just people sometimes aren't patient enough. If they have a few months of vacancy, they think, oh, I must be doing something wrong. The model's completely broken. You have to understand that you're going to have to be a little patient. In the long run, you'll be okay. It'll be profitable. But if you're going month to month, and that's the only product that you don't have other properties, it's gonna be a little intimidating. So for those people, I would recommend that they have a 2 to 3 month savings that's just going towards, okay, let's assume that this place is going to stay empty for 3 months. Yeah, which is a terrifying thought for a lot of investors, because they're like, oh my God, mortgage, taxes, insurance, this stuff didn't stop just when business did. So how am I going to make up for it? You'll make up for it. But it'll be over the average of 12 months, 24 months.
So is the midterm pretty recession resistant, because it's dependent on your relationships with public adjusters, insurance companies, and disasters happening to houses? They keep happening. Whereas yes. You might have, what do you think about like those little bubbles that on the side of a cliff, or teepees in Oklahoma, and like you get a piece of land and you build 10 teepees and you rent them out as Airbnbs.
Right.
I see those like the weird Airbnbs, a treehouse.
Man, I've seen those, and the little tiny homes. Yeah, they're so cute.
They are. It's like, do you ever see, like, do you hear about some of your friends having some of those, or have you heard about like the pros and the cons of those little things? Because it feels like you can make sheds like into houses pretty quickly.
Man, I'm a big fan of novelty items like that, and I've actually hosted some people in some short-term properties who do that. I think it's called glamping.
Glamping, okay.
Yeah, glamorous camping is what it's for. So it's like the little round homes, and you go in there. They look very, very lavish, but they're for my customer base, they're not overly practical, because you're bringing in all your stuff, and all of a sudden that tiny little room.
So those are strictly short term, like a hotel room type deal.
So if someone can make it work for long term, it would. I imagine it being in the context of they're not bringing a lot of furniture, or they're more like a Spartan sort of person who just thinks, okay, I need 3 changes of clothes and my laptop and my coffee, and that's kind of it.
Then you're going to be renting a van instead, or a camping van.
Yeah. Those people would be a great fit for it. But as far as larger people, or larger families, that's going to be a little bit more difficult.
Yeah.
Aside from just kind of a novelty of it.
So how passive is this really?
Depends on where you are. If you're the one who's investing in it, and you have a management company like Furnished, then we do everything. We do all of the paperwork with the city. We're the first responders for any sort of issues. We have all the resources in-house for the repairs. We do all the financing. in terms of like, accounting and taxes and stuff like that. We just send, the owners get just mailbox money essentially.
Is there some type of guarantee, or you can't guarantee that it's going to be occupied all the time, or do you kind of like, how do you get investors like easy when there's 2 months of vacancy under
Right.
your watch?
That's a great question, and that's something that for my opinion, it's a little bit of a moving target. Some investors have a higher tolerance than others.
Okay.
People who have just 1 or 2 properties, they're a little bit more nervous. And so if you're nervous about it, it's going to make it more difficult. We can do some things like lowering prices, for example. We could go, instead of the average 4-bedroom, 2-bath property, let's say we charge $6,500 on average. Sometimes they can be as much as $10,000.
Yep.
But that's going to be larger family, in some other circumstances that are going to be specific to them. Like, some people will have 5 dogs, 5 big German Shepherds that take up a lot of space and time. And so for those people, there's going to be a little bit of an extra cost.
That brings me another question. Does insurance pay for it? If you got 5 dogs, they gotta pay for a big house that can house 5 dogs, right?
Yes. So insurance is required to put the insured in equal or better housing. So if you live in a 5-bedroom, 5-bath house, they are obligated to find you something that's as close to it as possible, or something that's better than it.
Close to the house too, right?
Yes. They have to give you some options to choose from. It has to be relatively close to your house. Now, if it's a unique situation, like if you live in a mansion, it's going to be hard for them to find another mansion within a 2-3 mile radius. Yeah. But they may have to go a little bit further out, but yeah, they'll typically take care of those things for you.
Oh wow. Well, what's your magic, your idea investor, or your idea like property owner size of portfolio? Is it like 5 houses is a sweet spot, 20 houses is like a dream, or like what kind of investors would you like to work with in the future? Like the more houses the better, or is there like a limit?
I feel like as long as they're geographically diverse, they're spaced out far enough, our market doesn't really have issues supporting that, because we're not a luxury item, we're a necessity for everyday living. So that's why we're kind of, I always get a little nervous about using the phrasing of recession-proof, but I would just say that you may not, you have to eat, right? You may not be able to eat filet mignon because of your budget, but you're gonna have to, maybe like a skirt steak or something, or a hot dog or a hamburger, you're gonna have to eat something. So the people that we deal with, they need housing. So it may be that instead of charging $8,000 for a property, that we need to make some concessions and charge $6,000 for that property for that time. But it's still more than enough to offset its costs. But yeah, so.
Well, I got some fun questions now. Get ready. These are going to be quick, top of your brain. Just I'll ask them. You just tell me what you're thinking right off the top of your brain. Cash flow or appreciation?
Both. Can I choose both of these, or do I have to pick? If not, cash flow.
Both. Okay, cash flow.
I'll say cash flow.
Duplex or Airbnb?
Duplex.
And you can dive in a little bit deeper if you want to.
Okay.
Like tell us the reasoning. New build or fixer upper?
New build. Oh. Absolutely. I love new builds because Customers typically like newer homes, and it means that you feel a little bit more confident in the product. You're not worried about things that you hadn't even thought about breaking down on you, like
foundation,
shut-off valves for water. If I'm telling you that 75% of insurance claims are water damage, the first thing that I do, and anyone who asks us to manage their properties, I'm telling them, here's a laundry list of things we need to make sure are secure for your property so that your property can actually support these other people's needs while their house got flooded.
The last thing you want to do is move into a house and then flood that house and feel like it's your fault.
Yeah.
Our shut-off valve was rusty and half of it broken off.
Yep.
And so the city came and fixed it.
Oh, okay. So that must have been on the city side. Then
It
what
was
about
on
the street?
Yeah, it was down by the street. So
Yeah.
I guess we got lucky on that one.
Man, so I want to just emphasize this. I love that you said that. There's a shut-off valve by code, I think like about a foot or two away from the foundation of the house, like a manual one. Unless you've actually replaced those, if your house is more than 5 years old, that valve is shot.
Oh wow.
I highly recommend putting a ball valve. Plumber can do that for maybe like $300. It'll shut off the water to your whole house.
Probably for you because you got a plumber that services 10 houses.
So, okay, let's say $500.
Yep.
But I would definitely recommend that. I say replace your toilet water hose every 5 years or so. They're supposed to be. They don't last more than 10 years.
Holy cow.
Yeah. If you look at the details, it says you should be replacing. They shouldn't be more than 10 years old by any means, and make sure you get the steel braided ones as opposed to the cheap plastic ones. Make sure that your shutoff valves for your washer dryer are functional. Make sure your shutoff valve for your ice maker is functional. Make sure all of your shutoff valves actually shut off, because the last thing you want is if you have a big leak and you're trying to really quickly turn off the water, now you can't turn off the water. So most homes and most even new builds don't use ball valves. They use old school valves that, the twisty knobs, and they have rubber gaskets inside them that chlorine breaks down. So if you replace those, you're in a much safer space.
Did you learn how to replace them on your own, or you always have a plumber out to replace all those when you buy a property?
When I first started, I did that myself, but once we got bigger, I hired someone to just come and do it. We just create a list. We say replace these things. I don't care how old they are. I need to make sure that they're brand new, so that way our maintenance records reflect when we need to change them again or when we need to service them.
So, best DFW city for investing, one word.
HEB.
HEB?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. That area is growing. It's close to Dallas, close to Arlington, Grand Prairie, Irving. It's a really good spot. It's in the middle of everything. And so that means that you're far less likely to have vacancies. And Keller's really growing. So typically people are willing to travel 5 miles one way or another to stay at a property. So if you can stay in a 5 mile buffer, look at a 5 mile radius of that area, and you have a lot of good prospects.
Awesome. Biggest deal killer, inspection or financing?
Inspection.
What on the inspection? Like something that you're like, oh, I want this house, and then all of a sudden you're like, I can't do it.
It's typically one of three things: roof, HVAC, or plumbing. I'm not even afraid of foundation problems.
Foundation's okay.
Yeah.
Tenant or toilet?
I don't get the question. Tenant or toilet?
Which one do you have more problems with? I don't get the question either. I'm like, who wrote my questions?
Man, I gotta say,
A noisy tenant or a toilet that's having issues in the middle of the night, we'll change it.
I would say the toilet. Toilets would bother me way more than tenants. Tenants, I love those people. I feel honored that they entrust us with their state of living. You know, it's. I feel like people are in a very deeply vulnerable state when they're staying in a place that's not theirs, and so I would die if I felt like I let down my tenants, because they're entrusting us with their state of living. Whereas a toilet, I can always get rid of it and replace it. But with a tenant, I feel like I'm letting my tenants down. For the toilets, I feel like they're letting me down.
Shopping on Zillow or off market?
I would say Zillow. Zillow, because you're going to have more information on Zillow than you will on off market. And off market, typically people will try to skew things a certain way, a certain direction. Whereas with Zillow, you've got more comparison options.
Awesome. Safe play or high risk?
High risk.
High risk. High risk, high reward. Sometimes.
Yeah. What my favorite thing is to take high risk and not make it high risk. With enough preparation, high risk is not high risk. It's calculated risk. And that's what I like to focus on.
Buy now or wait?
Always buy now. Always buy now. Yeah.
Because you're always adjusting for the market.
Yes. So look, if you buy now, no matter what happens to the economy, you're going to be in a good space. If you own real estate and the economy just crashes, that means that there are a lot of people who can no longer afford to stay where they are. What that means is you as a landowner have a property that is in much higher demand. So you have much more rental probabilities, or capabilities rather. If the economy does really great and everything appreciates like it did in 2021 during COVID era, then your property just skyrocketed. You gained $100,000 in appreciation. You cannot lose if you own real estate, regardless of where the market is, because the market didn't just affect you, it affected everyone.
HOA, yes or no?
No.
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 Dream investment, beach or mountains?
Beach.
Beach. And one final question. When you go on a grocery trip, you're about to carry the bags in from the store. Do you do multiple trips so you don't hurt your arms and fingers, or is it one trip champion?
One trip. The keys are in my mouth. I've got all these grocery bags. I got some of my I guess my what is this? What is it?
Forearm.
This joint, whatever this, my elbow joint, and yeah, if I could do one on my feet too, I would. But yeah, one trip, baby, one trip.
Nice. We're all one trip champions. 3 for 3. Well, that ends the podcast, man. I hope you had a fun time. I enjoyed talking to you and learned a lot from your experience. Hopefully our viewers can learn a lot too, and anybody on the fence about getting into a property for rental can get off that fence and make the jump, and then anybody that wants your services can hit you up, and they can know that, hey, you have a lot of experience on getting properties furnished and rented out for them.
You know, I appreciate you inviting me here, Sean. It's been really wonderful to talk about these. This is my favorite topic, so it's nice to share, and it's just great to see you, my friends. You know, I will just leave with one parting thought, and that is that most of us are kind of suffering from analysis paralysis most of the time. the hardest thing to do is to make a choice. Once you make a choice, you'll find a million ways to justify your choice, your decision, you know. But make that decision, make that choice, choose whatever you pick, and then once you do that, then you've taken a step forward, and the rest just kind of comes intuitively. You don't have to figure everything out. And there are investors who think, oh, well, what about this, that, and a million other things. And my first thought is, the million properties that we have over all this time, despite, you know, every little blips and vacancies, none of them has ever lost money. Every single one of them has been profitable.
Wow.
And I know that this isn't anything that we're doing. The key is just to be consistent. The key is to be systematic, and the key is to just trust in the process, you know, and not let little inconsistencies that may show up every now and then mess with your flow, you know.
I love that quote. Analysis
paralysis.
Paralysis. It rhymes. So awesome.